Okay, so we'll get started. So welcome to the Toledo Zoo adventures. Today, as part of our entomology, extreme entomology study or adventure, we're going to visit our favorite zoo, the Toledo Zoo in Toledo, Ohio. And we have two tour guides. We have Alex here already, and Josh, I think, is on standby. And today we're going to learn a little bit more about insects and insectivores. So I wasn't sure what that was. So I'm here to learn along with you and to put a little bit more information in my entomology pocket. So I'm going to turn it over to Alex because I see that she's ready, and we'll see you guys in a bit.
All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a really good day so far. So first, we're going to focus on just the insects part, and we'll get to the insectivores in a little bit. So who can remind me, you probably are experts by now, but who can remind me what are the key features that make an insect an insect? So you can type that in the chat. What are some key features that allow us to know it's an insect and not like a spider or a mammal? And while you're thinking of those, I will turn my camera around here. So let's see here.
So we have legs. Make it abdomen.
Yeah. And how many legs do they have?
A spider has 8.
Yep, spiders have 8. How many legs does a true insect have?
6.
Yeah, absolutely. So 6 legs, 3 body parts, a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. Insects also have compound eyes, and we might talk about that if we find one that has some obvious eyes. They also have antenna. There we go. Now it's focusing. Now, do you guys see the insect that is in this exhibit? Now, I'll tell you that this exhibit is a little bit of an exercise in hide and seek. Does anybody think they can see the insect? This one's pretty tricky. I'll kind of pan around a little bit, look up, look down. Now, there's actually a couple of them in this exhibit. Yeah, so I'll try and put my camera square on it, and hopefully it'll focus back in again. Right here, this is actually a dead leaf mantis. So this is called a dead leaf mantis, so it is a type of mantis. So that means that it's a predator. That means it will actually hunt its prey. Let's see if I can find another one for you. This one's really high up, but it's on the glass. Right there. So this is called a dead leaf mantis, and it's from Southeast Asia. A lot of these stick insects or insects that have good camouflage are from Asia. I'm going to go back to this one. It's a little easier for me to hold the camera on. And the cool thing about this bug, it does look a lot like a dead leaf, right? When it is startled, it will actually fall to the ground. So it will fall to the ground as if it was a dead leaf and stay there until it believes that the threat has gone away. So that's pretty cool. Like I said, it's a predator. And once it catches its prey, it will actually start eating it even while the prey is still alive. So pretty cool animal. So feel free to type any questions that you have in the chat. There's actually another one on the tree right there. But feel free to type any questions that you have. We're going to, like I said, this is a little bit of an exercise in hide and seek. So I'm going to kind of go to each exhibit, and we're going to see if we can find the insect. So
Alex,
yeah, go ahead.
lag. There's a little bit of a lag when you show the video. So if you could just hold the camera still for like 10 seconds, it's hard because of the lag.
Yeah, no problem. So I bet you guys can find this one. Anybody know what kind of insect this is?
I know they know what that is.
So this is our Madagascar hissing cockroach. There we go. So this is one that actually normally does not hang out on the trees. Normally it would be sitting on the ground, but this one got a little ambitious, I guess, and went up to hang out on this branch here. So the hissing cockroach is a true insect that has those 6 legs, antennas, and its eyes are actually underneath. So what we look at when we see a cockroach is really more of the exoskeleton, the shell, and its kind of eyes and mouth and head are underneath of that area. So if you lifted it up, you would see what kind of almost looks like an ant head. And these are normally found on the forest floor in the rainforest. And probably their most unique trait is what gives them their name, the hissing cockroach. Does anybody know how the cockroach hisses? What body part does it use to hiss? Try to zoom in as much as I can here. Ooh, it actually doesn't use its mouth. So now that I'm kind of getting a little closer, maybe you can see those dots that are on the side of its back. Those are called spiracles, and it actually will push air through those spiracles in order to make the noise. So it's pretty cool, pretty unique. Yeah. So these are what we would call a decomposer or a detritivore. They're going to go along the floor to try and look for food to eat. All right, so let's take another look at some more of these exhibits. I'm going to scan a little bit. I am not seeing the animals in these, which is okay. We've got lots of repeats. All right, let's see if you can maybe see this one. Yeah, I think you can. All right, this one is really cool. This one is called a Tanzanian whip scorpion, W-H-I-P, whip scorpion. Now you might think with a name like whip scorpion that we're looking at a scorpion. So actually, this is not a scorpion, and it's actually not a spider either. So it's actually a part of a separate order, and I'm going to try to pronounce the name, but the order that it's in is called Amblypygids. So it's kind of a separate type of bug that's neither a spider nor a scorpion, which is pretty cool. But it kind of blends in. I'll try and get as close as I can. And this insect is pretty neat. It actually has thorny, legs in the front, kind of like a scorpion does, kind of like a crab, that allows it to grab its prey. And it actually is harmless to humans. So pretty neat. Yes, the tick is part of the arachnid family. That's right. So this would be almost like an arachnid, but it's in a different family. All right. Maybe not psychologically harmless, yes. Another one that's not super harmful to humans, but could be a little scary. I'll bet you guys know what kind of spider this is, or what kind of arachnid this is. Yeah, this is a tarantula, and we have a couple of different species of tarantula in this exhibit. This one is called the red knee tarantula. And this is actually one that's listed as near threatened. So this one has been over collected for the pet trade because of its color and its size. So certain tarantulas can be kept as pets as long as they're coming from reputable places. I personally wouldn't want a tarantula as a pet, but some people do like them. But we do, recommend making sure that you're getting them from a breeder that's not taking them from the wild. Now these ones, you do have to be pretty careful when you are dealing with a tarantula. Does anybody know what the tarantula does as kind of one of its main defenses? It has to do with those little things that are on its leg. So it does have some poison or some venom. Generally, it's not fatal to humans, but it can be very, very painful. The other thing it does is it flicks off the hairs on its legs. So it flicks off those hairs, and those can get embedded in the skin and cause itching and inflammation. So that's one way to keep the predators away. Ooh, it's moving its leg a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna look for one more down here, see if we can find it. So maybe you guys can see on the branch right there. So this one is called a bat cave roach. And actually, I'm going to lift my camera up really quickly because that tarantula just started moving a lot, so I wanted to show you more of its body. Sorry for moving the camera so much. Kind of creepy, huh? Sorry for the glare, too. But actually, there you can see its eyes a little bit. There you go. You can see its eyes a little bit, and you can actually see those mouth parts. So I'll bet most people aren't as comfortable coming this close. I'm lucky that the glass is here because I don't want those hairs getting in my skin. How old is this one? You know, I don't know the ages of the insects in here. I'm going to guess most of them are going to be around 2 years old because that's when we opened up this exhibit. Tarantulas, they can live quite a while. They can live maybe 10 years or so. They're a little bit longer lived than other types of bugs. But I would guess this one's probably middle-aged, maybe 3 to 5 years, I would guess. All right, yeah, I just wanted to show you because he was moving around a little bit. So we'll pop back down to this one. So this one is called a bat cave roach. Yeah, some can live up to 20 years, yep. So this one's called a bat cave roach. And this one is pretty interesting. It's just kind of looks like another cockroach, but I like to talk about it a little bit because why do you think it's called a bat cave roach? Oh, maybe because it hangs upside down. It actually is a little even simpler than that. It's called a bat cave roach because it lives in caves with bats. And guess what it likes to eat? It likes to eat something, in my opinion, that is kind of gross. So it actually eats bat poop, which is also called guano. So yes, you're right. It does eat guano or bat poop. So it's tapped into kind of a unique resource that not a lot of animals or insects have tapped into. They also have a pheromone that they will release if they get scared or if there's a predator, and that pheromone will warn all of the other roaches around. There might be one under the ground. Do you guys see the ground moving? That's kind of gross. All right. Any questions about the insects, or I should say bugs, that we've seen so far? Because we've seen some arachnids and some insects. All right. Well, you can feel free to ask any questions that you might have. I'm going to take you guys around. We're going to look for some more, like I said, show and tell a little bit. I won't spend too long on this one because I actually have one that I might something similar to this that I might show you a little bit later. But can you guys spot the insect that is in this exhibit? Yeah, a stick bug, or this one's called an anim stick insect. And there's actually a lot of them in here. You might notice on the glass, there's even some juveniles. So I'll try to hold it still for a second so that you can focus in on the juveniles. And so these are actually from Vietnam. And of course, these are one that have really good camouflage. So they're going to be able to blend in really well with their exhibit. So there's one that's kind of right in the middle of my camera there. There's another one on the stick. And there are some on the glass as well. All right, so let's take some more looks here. I'm going to see if I can find another one that has a good view. This one has a very interesting name. This one's called the white-eyed assassin bug. So it probably gets its name from those two white dots on its back. But one of the reasons why, or does anybody know why they're called an assassin bug? The reason they're called an assassin bug is they have these piercing mouthpieces that they will stick into another bug or their food source, and they're gonna suck the juices out of it. So we're talking bugs today, we're getting a little gross, but that's kind of why they're called an assassin bug, is because they're gonna pierce with that mouth part, and they're gonna kind of suck the juices out. Sometimes they'll even share the same meal with multiple individuals. So there's a couple of them in here. All right. Moving on around, this one is a little bit fogged up, but you might be able to see, there we go. We have a couple more stick insects here. So these are walking sticks. These ones in particular are from Southeast Asia again. And these are a giant one, so they can get up to a foot long. And even though they look like sticks, they still have those body parts that we talked about, the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. They just all kind of look like sticks. And of course, their legs, their 6 legs look like sticks. They'll even hold up their 2 front legs to almost look like kind of the ends of a stick. Can you guys find them in there? I actually see 3 that I'm showing you on the screen right now. So see if you can find all 3 of them. All right, looks like Wesley did it. All right. So I'm going to continue on. Let me know if I'm going too fast, because I want to make sure we get to our insectivores as well, because I know you guys are interested in learning more about those. So let's see what else we can find. Ooh, you said you guys saw something like this the other day. So who remembers what this insect is, or this bug is? Oh, it's not a leech. It's named after all those little legs that you see. Yeah, so this is the giant African millipede, and it can grow up to 15 inches long, and they can live up to 7 years. So you can see they're eating some leaves right now. They also have a relationship with a little mite. The mite lives on the exoskeleton and eats any waste or food that helps to kind of clean up the millipedes. So that's kind of an interesting, where 2 insects kind of have a relationship with each other. All right, so there's actually another millipede right here up on the glass. This one's called the red-legged millipede. You can probably see why it's called red-legged. We'll see if the camera focuses a little bit here. There we go. Yep, it's got those red legs. And you can see it has those antennas. Now, do you think the millipede, do you think that this is actually an insect or some other kind of bug? Do you think does it meet the qualifications to be an insect? So remember, the main traits are that they have 6 legs, and already this one breaks those rules, right? It has way more than 6 legs. So this is going to be in a different group all its own. So it's not technically a true insect. All right. So let's see if we can find maybe one more insect in here. A lot of these are kind of fogged up, but I know over here we can probably get a view of a couple more. So this one's called a taxicab beetle. So the taxicab beetle is a type of beetle from Africa. And these ones actually take a pretty long time to develop. So they, does anybody know what a baby beetle is sometimes called? The alphabet beetle. So they're called a grub, and these ones take about 6 months to mature into the adult. So that's the taxicab beetle, and I see one more that's pretty big hanging out right here. So this one's called the magnificent flower beetle. And he's coming to say hi to you. So this is called the magnificent flower beetle. Now, most of the insects that are in the world are beetles. So the most common type of insect is beetles. There's more than 400,000 beetles in the world. Yeah, it has pretty long legs, huh? All right, well, that kind of wraps up the insects that I think are visible in here for now. Does anybody have any questions about our insect room before we go learn about insectivores?
Yeah, that was a busy beetle. He was swaying like crazy.
I know.
We'll call him Rico.
All right, well, if you guys think of more questions, feel free. I will be back with you to show you another insect a little bit closer up in another building. So I'm going to toss it over to Josh for the meantime, and he's going to talk to you about insectivores.
All right, everybody. So we've seen a lot of insects and bugs. It's time for us to talk insectivores. And one thing that I really want to emphasize is that insects are very important for a number of reasons. They do important jobs like decomposing, and they are an important part of the food chain. And it's those insectivores that are especially important in connecting insects into the food chain. So when I say insectivore, what does that word mean? What does it mean to be an insectivore? Well, let's back up a little bit. If I said carnivore, what does that mean? Yeah, I'm seeing insect plus carnivore. Yeah, so an insectivore is a type of carnivore. So yeah, carnivore means they eat primarily meat. So an insectivore, they would eat primarily, oh, your worst nightmare. Well, hopefully not your worst nightmare. If you're afraid of insects, insectivores are probably your best friends. Yeah, insectivores eat primarily insects. So I have an insectivore here for us to take a look at. Anybody have an idea of what type of insectivore this is? It's a tricky one. This is an animal. If we look at the back, it has 3 bands on its back. This is an insectivore called a 3-banded armadillo. So 3-banded armadillos are a type of armadillo. Armadillos are found from North America, where there's the 9-banded armadillo. And then there are Central American and South American armadillos. Of all the armadillos, this is the only type that can curl up completely into a ball. So he's doing that for protection. You can see his tail and his head fit neatly together. So he is sealed in there for protection. And he has this hard shell. It is alive. In a second, I'll set it down and we can watch him walk around a little bit for us. But he is one of those ultimate insectivores. Do you know what? Let me turn around the camera here and we will talk about him while we watch him walk around. So I'm going to switch us to my back camera here. All right, and I have set him down right on the floor, and we'll see. Sometimes it takes him a minute to come back out. So he is, like I was saying, an ultimate insectivore. He is so good at finding insects because of a lot of the features that he has. He has amazing ears, so he actually can hear an insect underground. He has a really good nose for smelling insects, and then he has some sharp claws too for digging up insects. All right, and when these armadillos move around, I think they move kind of like a little wind-up toy kind of thing. Almost looks like it's not really an animal. All right, while we're watching this insectivore, anybody have any questions about insectivores in general or our three-banded armadillo? So you might also notice he is a mammal. He has hair on his underside, and those work kind of like whiskers too. So he can feel around and explore the different insects and things down on the ground.
Can he roll around from Wes and Faye?
No, he can curl up into that ball, but he doesn't actually move when he's in that ball.
He's so cute.
Nope, he's going back in there.
I think this
Any
is the
other?
first I've ever seen an armadillo so close.
Yeah, he's pretty
I don't think so
amazing.
either.
And he,
What are his predators?
do you know, armadillos don't have too many predators when they're full grown. When they're babies, obviously they're a lot smaller, and there's a lot of things that could get through that shell. But when they're full grown, here, I'm going to switch the camera back so I can hold him. When they are full grown, only the largest of animals really would eat an armadillo. And even those wouldn't go after it that much because it's a pretty small animal and a lot of effort. So you can actually see his eye and his nose and his claws right now. It's kind of looking out at us. But yeah, things like a jaguar, a crocodile might eat an armadillo. But again, there's not a whole lot to an armadillo in terms of meat. So it's a lot of effort for not a big payoff. All right. Any final questions on our armadillo? What is his shell made of? That's a great question. So his shell is different than a turtle shell. So the shell of an armadillo is actually made out of keratin. And keratin is the same thing that makes up your fingernails and hair. So it is a much more flexible shell, still hard, but not nearly as heavy as a turtle shell of the same size. All right, well, thank you for exploring this insectivore with me. I'm going to turn it back over to Alex, and she's going to keep showing you some insects.
All right. So I am in a new building now, and we're going to explore 2 more insects for you. The first one is actually hanging out in these little tubes. Now, can you guys see what insect is hanging out in these tubes? I will let it focus for just a second. There we go. Yeah, these are ants, and in particular, these are called leafcutter ants. So I bet you can see why they are called leafcutter ants. We're going to follow this first back this way towards where they are getting their leaves. So this is the area where you can see we've put some leaves in here, and they are going in here and cutting them into pieces and taking them. Now, this might seem so impressive, but for a tiny little ant like this, that is a couple times their body weight, and we cannot lift as much as an ant could lift compared to our body weight. So these are really a superhero that is extremely strong. And yeah, you were just getting to the question I was going to ask you, if you thought that these were taking the leaves to eat them or something else. And Katie was right. They are actually taking them for another purpose. So let's follow this tube along down the wall. So they have a long journey here. And it goes kind of up above the door here. This corner.
How long of a distance is that?
Oh, that's a great question. I would have to measure it to know for sure. But I would say it's probably a good 20 to 30 feet or more.
Wow.
So that's a pretty long journey for an ant as well. So they are heading to this area right here. And you're exactly right. They are using the leaves to create a mold, which is their food source, and not necessarily eating the leaves themselves. So we can zoom back in on these leaves right here. Now, does anybody know what are some of the different jobs that the leaves can eat? Yeah, they can carry 100 times their weight. That's right. So we often have different names for the different jobs that ants have. Does anybody know? These are, I don't know exactly what kind of leaf these are. I don't know that it has to be a specific type. There may be some different species that specialize on different types of leaves. Well, I bet most of you have heard of one of the names of an ant, the one that lays all the eggs. Who knows what the ant that lays the eggs is called? Yeah, the queen. So the queen is the one that lays the eggs, and she's somewhere in the colony. We don't really know exactly where the queen is, but she would be somewhere in there. Anybody have a guess of maybe what the soldier ant would do? What do you think the soldier ant would do? Well, marching, yeah, protecting, yeah. So these are going to be the ones that have the larger heads. So if I see one come through, I'll let you know, but they have like a little bit larger head. And so they will protect the nest and they'll protect the other ants. What do you think? Do you guys have a clue of what the ones that are doing most of the carrying are going to be called? It starts with a W. That one might be a soldier. Yeah, the workers. Yeah. So these are the ones that are searching and carrying. So they're the ones that are going to be doing most of the work. And then there's a special kind of ant for this species called the gardener ant. So the gardener is actually going to be the one that is taking care of that fungus that we see in there. So they're kind of making sure that everything is growing properly so that they have all the food that they need. So these are a really cool ant. It's fun to come into here. This is our children's zoo area and kind of just watch them. So it's really fascinating to see how they can carry so much and just see them moving back and forth. Anybody have questions about these leafcutter ants before I show you my last animal? Yeah. Oh, why are they red? I don't know if there's a particular reason why they're red. Josh, you ever any answer to why they are red? I don't know if he's still.
I am still here, and I don't have an answer to that.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's just the color. There's different varieties of ants. They're not like the red fire ants that are trying to warn or anything like that.
Do you know what? They do live in the same area as some fire ants, so maybe there's a little mimicry going on.
Yeah, could be. All right, well, if you think of more questions, go ahead and type them. It'll take me just a second to, sweaty from all the work, yeah, to turn my camera around here. So give me just a second. All right, and we're gonna see one a little bit up close. So our entomologist here at the zoo, so we do have some people that work just with our insects, were nice enough to share with us one of their insect collections. I'm going to get that out for you carefully right now. If I can grab a hold of it. Here we go. All right, can you guys see on my hands here? He's kind of small, but kind of mighty. So this is another one of our stick insects, and he's not quite as used to being held, so he's kind of flailing around a little bit, but they might wave those legs a little bit in order to look like sticks in the wind. And these are another one that is from Southeast Asia. And if he holds still for us, we can kind of explore a little bit some of the stuff we've been talking about with insects and how they have 3 body parts. So the head that's up here, the thorax that's kind of in the middle, and then the abdomen on this creature is a little bit longer, but it's kind of that whole long part that would be kind of like its rear end. It does have 6 legs, 2 antennae. Its eyes are going to be really small for you to see, but it has those compound eyes. Do they bite? They're not. Their mouths are not big enough to bite me or do any damage to me. But of course, what are they going to use their mouths for primarily? They're primarily going to be using them to eat. So they're eating like leaves as they live in the trees. So they're just going to need those little mouth parts to chew on the leaves a little bit. So you can see once he kind of gets into position, he's going to be really, really still in order to kind of blend in as a stick. So we mentioned that, you know, some insects might be scary to us, but they are a super important part of the ecosystem, a super important part of our planet. Without bugs, we definitely would not be able to survive. What are some things that people rely on bugs for? Can you think of anything that we might rely on bugs as part of our daily life? Yeah, honey. So not even just directly the honey, because we love honey. I love eating honey. But what else do bees do that's really important for our food? Yeah, fruits. And does anybody know that P word? Yeah, pollinate. Yeah, so bugs are super important for pollinating. So they're going to allow us to have our food through pollination to make sure that we can continue to have crops. And what was the word? Josh mentioned it, and I think I mentioned it when we were talking about the cockroach. What do they do to the dead material? Oh, you're a beekeeper. That's really cool. Anybody know that word that means to break down dead things? Okay, get rid of it. Yeah, composting. Yeah, so decomposing. So we rely on, exactly, Gabriella, decomposing. So we rely on insects to get rid of our dead material. Otherwise, we would just be overrun with too many things. It would be really hard to live with all the dead leaves and carcasses. So they play a really important part in that. And of course, like we said, they play a really important part in the ecosystem as well. So they provide food for some other animals that might be important to us, like our armadillo. Almost all birds, a lot of different birds will eat insects. So they're a really important food source, and some people around the world even eat bugs too. Does anybody have any questions about any of the insects that we saw today, or the stick insect that has now decided to really become a stick? What are the pointy things? These are his legs. These are the legs. So he's sticking the legs, his legs really out straight to look like a stick. They also have the antennas, but the antennas are much smaller on this one. Yeah, there's 2 little antennas that are smaller down there. Any other questions? Oh, do we have bees? I'll tell you what, because you asked and they are right over here, I'm going to put this stick bug down.
Oh,
We do have bees. They are right next to me, so I can show them to you really quickly.
Arian asked do they disguise as sticks when they're afraid or all the time?
You know, generally they're going to do that when they're threatened. You know, if they are hungry and eating, they're obviously going to be moving around a little bit. If they're just resting, they're going to look like a stick. But most of the time, it's just when they are threatened. So let's see here. Here is our beehive.
Ooh.
So this actually goes through a tube to the outside of this building so that these bees can and pollinate and get nectar if they need to. And you might be able to hear the noise. We actually pipe in the noise so it's a little bit louder. All right, any other questions for me?
Does that hive make honey?
I believe it makes a little bit. I don't know if we collected. Josh, do you know?
Yes, it has produced some honey. This is what's called an observation hive. So it doesn't have the same rows of frames that a full hive would. But we have used the honey for some of our special events. During like a wine tasting, we've offered participants some of our local honey. So we periodically take the honey from the hive, yes.
Cool. And Wes and Faye say they have beehives too. So I wonder if they get honey from their hive. That's awesome.
All right, very cool.
Mm.
All right. Well, that is kind of our insects. We pretty much saw all the insects that we have at the zoo today. So if you guys have any last questions, we're happy to answer those. Otherwise, we are excited to meet up with you again soon.
That was awesome. And to see so many different varieties, we learned that there are over 1 million species of insects. So we just saw a fraction, but we saw, I think, some of the most fascinating. So Arian, thank you so much for being interested and wanting to come again. So next week, we're going to talk about how we can be good eco warriors. So keeping those pollinators going and how we can be eco warriors and keep the earth safe. We're going to be meeting next week we're going to meet somebody who dives in glaciers and with polar bears. She's really awesome. Yeah, I should invite you guys because she's really awesome. And we're going to learn about recycling, and Katie will have all of that posted probably tomorrow night. And then watch for your newsletters and you'll see what we'll be making. Oh, we're going to be learning about forest fires from Katie's husband and learning about how we can keep the forest safe from Miss Anna. We have a really great program for you next week. So have a great weekend, entomologists. We're going to change adventures next week. We're going to see Josh and Alex in a couple of weeks. And thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. See you, everybody. The links will be up tomorrow lunchtime.
Yep. Perfect. Thanks. Bye. Bye, everyone.